A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to this Sunday's edition of Primetime News coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka and let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Preeti Padman Surasena sworn in as Chief Justice before the President. A generation that puts the country before themselves must be created for the development of the nation. A statement from the Asgiri Anunayaka Thera. Outward actions are ineffective unless one's inner self is cleansed. A statement from Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit. Tourist arrivals in Sri Lanka exceeds 1.3 million this year. Thai Cambodian border clashes continue. Ceasefire talks mediated by Malaysia to begin tomorrow.
And now the stories in detail. Justice Preeti Padman Surasena, the most senior justice of the Supreme Court, was sworn in as the 49th Chief Justice of Sri Lanka before President Anura Kumar Dissanayaka at the President's office this morning.
The appointment of Justice Preeti Padman Surasena as the 49th Chief Justice of Sri Lanka follows the retirement of former Chief Justice Murthu Fernando and was approved by the Constitutional Council. Justice Surasena took oaths as an attorney at law in 1989 and joined the Attorney General's Department, where he served as a state counsel. In 2007, he was appointed as a High Court judge. He was elevated to the Court of Appeal in 2016 and served as the President of the Court of Appeal from 2018. In 2019, he was appointed as a Justice of the Supreme Court. He is currently the most senior Justice of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka.
The Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, says actions carried out externally without purifying one's inner self are ineffective.
Cardinal Ranjit expressed these views while attending the ceremony to bless the renovated St. Sebastian's Church in Maradagahamula, Diulapitiya. The Mahasangha, including Professor Venerable Induragare Dhammaratanathira, was also present at the event.
About 5 decades ago, a certain political party came to power in this country, declaring their intention to establish a righteous state. However, I believe that was one of the most unrighteous governments in the history of the country. During their rule, they worked to turn law into lawlessness. Killings, disappearances, wars, riots and arson incidents occurred continuously. The peace that existed in the country was completely lost and the nation was plunged into a major war. So righteousness, meaning virtue and goodness, cannot be created by a political party. They simply do not have the capacity to do that. It is something each and every one of us can do. Because without a spiritual and religious revolution within, political struggles alone will not bring change to the country or society. Everyone must try to live according to the teachings of their own faith sincerely. Political institutions should support and facilitate this in every way. This is because external actions without purifying the inner self are of no use. Currently, the political leadership has introduced the Clean Sri Lanka campaign with programs aimed at cleaning the country. These are good initiatives, but society largely understands the importance of inner purification over mere external cleansing. If that does not happen, society will continue to deteriorate. External changes without inner transformation are ineffective. Therefore, as religious leaders, we face a great challenge. Instead of thinking only about our own religions and creating divisions or conflicts amongst ourselves, we must come together. We must work united as the people of Sri Lanka to spiritually uplift the nation through inner purity and harmony.
අපි හැමෝම එකතු වෙලා ශ්‍රී ලංකා වාසී ජනතාව ආධ්‍යාත්මිකත්වයෙන් පුරවන්නට කටයුතු කළ යුතුයි. ඇතුළාන්ත පැවැත්මෙන්.
Venerable Venderuwe Upalianu Nayaka Thera of the Askariya chapter of the Siam sect stressed on the need to foster a generation that prioritizes the nation over themselves to develop the country.
A new beginning means early learning.
Why is it that our country can't develop? The key reason lies in Japan's core approach. They prioritize their country first, then their job, then their family, and finally themselves. Our nation, however, is accustomed to and teaches prioritizing oneself first, then one's family, then one's job, and only lastly thinking about the country. How can we uplift our nation? That's why today, even though the President genuinely wishes to build a beautiful and pure country, we struggle to even achieve this basic cleanliness. I recall Japan's example for this very reason. It's not enough just to fill our heads with knowledge. Education must instill proper attitudes alongside knowledge and then skills. Only then can we truly make this country a beautiful nation.
Yanunayaka Thera shared these views while attending the inauguration of a new early childhood development center under the patronage of the government of Japan. Mayor of Colombo, Raikali Baltasar, along with Japanese representatives and other dignitaries, were present at the event.
Tourist arrivals to Sri Lanka in 2025 has surpassed 1.3 million. A total of 145,188 tourists arrived in the country between 1st of July and 23rd July.
According to the latest statistics from the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, 1,313,232 tourists have arrived in the country so far this year. Of this, 269,708 tourists were Indians, while 124,652 were from the United Kingdom. From the 1st of July to the 23rd, 27,786 Indian tourists arrived in Sri Lanka, accounting for 19.1% of the arrivals during that period. In July alone, 16,750 tourists from the United Kingdom visited Sri Lanka. This month also saw 10,809 arrivals from Netherlands, 9,294 from China, 7,732 from France and 7,520 from Germany. A large number of foreign tourists can be seen visiting Ella these days. The increase in tourist arrivals before the peak season months is particularly noteworthy. Many tourists continue to arrive in Ella by train.
Sri Lanka is very beautiful and we would like to come back again.
නියමිත කාල සීමාවට කලින් දැන් බොහෝ සංචාරක පිරිසක් ජර්මනිය, එංගලන්තය ආදී බොහෝ රටවල් වලින් මේ සංචාරකයන් මෙහෙට පැමිණීමට පටන් ගෙන දෙනවා.
That's a very nice country. People are very kind, very kind.
Tourists are also arriving in large numbers at Arugambe.
Very beautiful place on Arugambe.
Currently, the Golf Fort is also seeing a surge in foreign visitors. Among the government's ongoing efforts to boost the economy, special focus has been given to developing the tourism sector. New projects have been launched to enhance tourist attractions and infrastructure across the country. In the Badula district, the Narangala mountain range has been identified as a key site for ecotourism. A recent observation tour was conducted by Deputy Minister of Tourism Ruan Ranasinghe and his team to assess its development potential. Plans are underway to upgrade the area as a dedicated tourist attraction. The Kalpitia Peninsula is another key tourist destination, attracting visitors for surfing and other water sports. Several promotional programs are currently in place to further enhance the tourist experience in the region.
We have been amazing. It's like
a paradise.
Meanwhile, the Cabinet has approved a proposal to upgrade sanitary facilities in popular tourist destinations. An estimated of 525.9 million rupees has been allocated for this initiative, covering 20 tourist hotspots across the country.
The inaugural ceremony for the Kingdom of Kotte Tourist Trail was held today under the patronage of Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. This initiative aims to promote the historically significant tourist attractions belonging to the Kotte Kingdom among visitors.
The primary objectives of this program are to guide the Kotte community in enhancing their livelihoods through tourism, conserve archaeological sites, preserve wetlands and promote tourism.
I'm really pleased to be here today and to be able to speak at the launch of the Kingdom of Kotte Tourism Trail, a really significant initiative for many reasons that marks the beginning of a new chapter for Sri Lanka. The project is more than just a tourism trail. It is a journey through history, nature and heritage. It is an opportunity to reintroduce our capital city not only as the administrative heart of Sri Lanka, but also as a place of remarkable historical depth, cultural richness, and ecological value. And if you go into the history of Sri Jayawardhanapura Kotte, as was mentioned in the video, this was also a time of a great cultural renaissance. And I was really pleased to hear the mayor talk about the need to revive some of these, because I think Kotte is ideally positioned for this, and I really hope that this initiative will look at making Kotte a culturally rich city, a city where people can experience a good cultural life as well as all the other things that this city can offer.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is set to meet US President Donald Trump today to clinch a trade deal for Europe that would likely see a 15% baseline tariff on most EU goods, but end months of uncertainty for EU companies.
A high-power EU delegation has landed in Scotland anticipating a breakthrough in talks with US President Donald Trump at a crunch meeting today to avoid an escalating trade war with Washington. The EU Trade Commissioner and a team of aides arrived at Glasgow Prestwick Airport this morning to join an advance party led by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who flew in yesterday to prepare for one of the most critical meetings in her tenure. The meeting is scheduled to take place at 4:30 p.m. Scotland time, with the US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and the trade representative Jamieson Greer also flying in for the meeting at Trump's Turnberry Golf Resort. Hopes are rising for a deal. However, Trump is keeping the EU anxiously waiting, shouting this morning to cameras belonging to foreign media stationed next to the golf course that the chances of a deal remained 50-50. Before the meeting on Trump's golf course in Turnberry, Western Scotland, US and EU teams were in final talks on tariffs for crucial sectors like cars, steel, aluminium or pharmaceuticals. In case there is no deal and the US imposes 30% tariffs from the 1st of August, the EU has prepared counter tariffs on 93 billion euros, that is $109 billion of US goods. The EU deal would be a huge prize, given that the US and EU are each other's largest trading partners by far and account for a third of global trade.
Thailand and Cambodia clashed for a fourth day today, despite both sides saying they were ready to discuss a ceasefire after a late-night intervention by US President Donald Trump.
The Malaysian Foreign Minister has announced that talks on a ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia are scheduled to begin in Kuala Lumpur tomorrow, with delegations headed by Thai Acting Prime Minister and the Cambodian Prime Minister, and with Malaysia as the mediator. The neighbours Thailand and Cambodia, popular destinations for millions of foreign tourists, have been locked in their bloodiest conflict in years over the disputed border, with at least 33 people confirmed killed. and more than 200,000 displaced since Thursday. The clashes have rumbled on despite calls from the United Nations, United States and China for the fighting to stop. Both sides have accused the other of starting the latest border flare-up and traded blame for the ongoing fighting. US President Donald Trump said yesterday that he had called the leaders of Cambodia and Thailand, pressing them for an immediate ceasefire following border clashes. At the beginning of a private visit to his Scottish golf courses, the US President said that both nations have agreed to immediately meet and quickly work out a ceasefire and ultimately peace. The response from the Prime Ministers of Thailand and Cambodia to Trump's phone calls have been positive, yet neither has changed its position. Hours after Trump's announcement, Thailand's government today said it was not ready to stop military operations and accused Cambodia of continuing to fire heavy artillery at civilian areas in its Surin province on the border and several other areas. The acting Prime Minister thanked President Trump for his concern and expressed that Thailand agrees in principle to have a ceasefire in place. He added that his country does not want a third country to mediate, but was thankful for Trump's concern. On the other hand, Cambodia had already proposed a ceasefire. Its military is weaker than Thailand's and it has been losing ground and equipment to the Thai artillery bombardments and airstrikes. Cambodian Prime Minister said after the phone call, I quote, I made it clear to Trump that Cambodia agreed with the proposal for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire between the two armed forces. End quote. He also added that Trump's mediation, I quote, will truly help protect the lives of many soldiers and civilians, end quote. US President Donald Trump said that he looked forward to resuming trade talks with Cambodia and Thailand, though it wasn't appropriate to hold discussions until the fighting stops. His intervention between the two neighbors comes a week before US tariffs on Cambodia and Thailand are due to come into force. At least 33 soldiers and civilians have been killed, while thousands of Thai and Cambodian nationals have been displaced since fighting broke out on the 24th of July.
Several factions are alleging that the National People's Power government is politicizing the youth societies in the country. Meanwhile, the government emphasized its commitment to depoliticizing the youth societies, asserting that it is intervening to remove the political influence that has existed within them.
Normally, we have a standing order that to join the provincial federation, you need to be a member of a youth society for 1 year. But these NPP members have arranged it so that if you become a member this morning, you can come in the evening tomorrow and get a position in the provincial federation. I'm asking, how did that happen? How can they do this? How are they politicizing the youth? We, the youth, can overthrow governments in this country in 5 minutes. Politics wasn't involved in youth societies like this until now. Has this new NPP government, together with the SIU, brought politics into it? How can they do this?
Parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa, national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, alleges that the current government is attempting to extend its control even to youth societies.
The government is trying to extend its control from village societies all the way to youth movements. When the government fails to fulfill its promises, it believes that it can bring the state machinery under its party's grip. The government is at a point where they believe if they can gather the civil organizations and civil power in the villages around their party, they can perpetually sustain themselves by transforming their lies into truth.
What is the stance of National People's Power?
We witnessed a time when the sons of former presidents were appointed to lead youth service councils and national priorities were shaped around fulfilling their personal dreams. If a president's son wanted to play rugby, rugby became the national focus. If he wanted to race, the entire sporting landscape was steered towards racing. Even religious institutions were used to serve personal and political agendas. For years, ordinary youth were denied the opportunity to lead or participate meaningfully. Instead, those who served as stooges in political campaigns were appointed to key positions in youth organizations. Today, we are working to dismantle that political culture. The Youth Service Council was treated like a private asset by the political elite, as if it belonged only to them. If we truly want to reform this system, we must create space for a new generation to lead. Going forward, the dreams of a president's son will not define the dreams of all the children in this country. Their personal sporting interests will no longer shape national youth policy.
ක්‍රීඩාවට තියෙන හැකියාව, ක්‍රීඩාවට තියෙන කැමැත්ත මුළු රටේම දරුවන්ගේ තරුණයන්ගේ කැමැත්ත බවට පරිවර්තන එකක් නැහැ.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya said that the current government is not treating education as a political tool to consolidate power. Education authorities in Sabargama province were briefed on the new education reforms at the Ratnapura district secretariat.
By the time we assumed responsibility in November 2024, much of the groundwork had already been completed. Since 2018, the education curriculum development related to design and policy criteria and other specialized tasks carried out with expert advice were mostly finalized. Although the rollout was initially planned for January 2025, infrastructure issues, particularly with printing modules, teacher training and revising the module content, led the Ministry of Education to postpone the start to January 2026.
අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍යාංශය ඒ මොහොතේ තීරණය කරා 2026 ජනවාරි මාසයේදී මේ ආරම්භ කිරීමට.
මම කියන්නම් අපේ ආණ්ඩුව වෙනස් වෙන තැන.
I will explain how our government is different. We stand apart in two key ways. First, we're not merely reforming the curriculum, we are critically evaluating the entire education system and making essential interventions to ensure it can effectively support and implement those curriculum changes. Second, we are re-establishing the role of the government in taking responsibility for education, something that has been neglected for a long time. For years, while talking about the need for educational reform, we simultaneously reduced education budgets and allowed political interference to dictate appointments of teachers and principals. The opening of schools was often driven not by the needs of children or communities, but by political gain, starting a school just to attach a name and use it for the next election campaign. We are putting an end to that. As a ministry and as a government, we are no longer making decisions in education to gain political mileage or to have our names on plaques. That is why we urge everyone, let us not turn education into a political background. Let's not exploit it for short-term gains. Instead, let's have honest, inclusive discussions about what is best for our children and for the future of education. This conversation is very important.
අධ්‍යාපනයේ පැත්තෙන් විය යුතු හොඳම දේ දරුවගේ පැත්තෙන් විය යුතු හොඳම දේ ගැන අපි ඕන තරම් සංවාදයේ යෙදමුකෝ මේ සංවාදය අතිශයින්ම වැදගත්.
Newsfirst with the people.
The sugarcane farmers of Sagal engaged in a protest based on 4 key demands.
The sugarcane farmers of Sagal engaged in a protest based on several demands, including the following key issues. The immediate payment of 250 million rupees owed to farmers for their sugarcane harvest, ensuring the proper and consistent purchase of sugarcane harvests by the Sagal sugar factory, the payment of 7 million rupees for transportation costs incurred using tractors, and the proper operation of cranes during sugarcane collection. The protesters marched from Daduma Junction to the Sagal sugar factory intersection, demanding a discussion with the authorities. They then proceeded in a protest march to the Sagal sugar company premises, seeking official dialogue. Police and Sagal security officers were stationed at the entrance of the sugar factory.
අපේ ලක්ෂ 2500 අපිට දියාව අපි එතකම් මේක මිතර වෙනවා සභාපතිට දැන්වත් කෝල් එකක් ෆෝන් ආන්සර් කරන්නේ නැහැ අපිට සාහනාදාවත් එපා අපේ අතපර හයිය තියෙනවා අපිට වගා කරලා ගෝතැන් කරලා අපිට කන්න පුළුවන් හැබැයි අපි වගා කරන ඒකට මිලක් දීපියව.
Later, the protesters announced their intention to present their issues at the upcoming district coordinating committee meeting scheduled to be held in Monaragala on the 30th.
The report of the investigation committee appointed on IGP Deshabandhu Thenakon is scheduled to be included in the Parliament's order book next Friday. Parliament stated that the report must be added to the order book 5 working days after being tabled.
Speaker Dr. Jagat Vikramaratne recently outlined the procedure for removing IGP Deshabandhu Thenakon from office. The committee appointed to probe allegations of misconduct, unanimously found Thennakoon guilty of the charges cited in a motion signed by 115 MPs. Accordingly, the debate on the investigation report is set to take place on the 5th of August.
The Attorney General's Department is preparing to request an investigation report from the Criminal Investigation Department concerning former Director of the State Intelligence Service and former Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police Nilantha Jayawardena.
The Attorney General's Department is preparing to request the investigation report from the CID concerning former Director of the State Intelligence Service and former Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police Nilantha Jayawardena. The department stated that the formal request will be sent to the CID in the coming days. Further action will be determined after a thorough review of the investigation report. The National Police Commission took immediate steps to remove Nilantha Jayawardena from the police service following his conviction on all charges. At the time of the Easter Sunday attacks, Nilantha Jayawardena was serving as the acting director of the State Intelligence Service.
A special operation to inspect three-wheelers was conducted in the Galle city last afternoon. The operation, carried out under the supervision of Galle DIG Jagat Diseram, aimed to prevent the transport of illegal weapons and narcotics. 6 teams from the army and police were deployed near main roads entering Galle city to check three-wheelers separately based on their color. Meanwhile, during a special island-wide police operation carried out over the past month, legal action was filed against 1,553 suspects for traffic violations. Police also reported the arrest of 302 suspects during the operation.
Numerous deaths of elephants and tuskers have been reported in recent days due to various reasons. Most of these deaths are caused by the human-elephant conflict. However, there have also been incidents where fights between elephants and tuskers have led to these fatalities. Recently, such an elephant-tusker fight has occurred in Sithulpawa.
This is Sithulpawa, located in the southern province. Recently, a group of pilgrims travelling along the road near the Sithulpawa Rajamahaviharaya witnessed a duel between an elephant and a tusker. Wildlife experts believe that battles between young tuskers and elephants often result in the death of one animal. Meanwhile, another elephant that sustained severe injuries following a similar fight succumbed to its injuries on Friday at the Kaudulla Reservoir. This deceased wild elephant had been receiving treatment from wildlife officers for 3 days after it was found fallen near the banks of the Kaudulla Reservoir. The following day, wildlife officers with the assistance of fishermen administered treatment again when the elephant came to another area along the reservoir. However, the wild elephant passed away that same afternoon and its body was discovered in the reservoir last morning. The post-mortem examination conducted by officials from the Giritale Wildlife Veterinary Unit revealed that severe damage to internal organs and internal bleeding were the causes of death. The elephant's body was buried last afternoon. This morning, the carcass of a wild elephant was found floating in the Mavilaru stream in Kallar, Senuara, Kantale. Wildlife officers said that the animal likely died a few days ago. This is how a wild elephant that had fallen into an agricultural well in Devagala, Galtalava, Polonnaruwa was rescued. This rescue operation that spanned across 8 hours last night was carried out by Veragala wildlife officers. The rescued wild elephant was driven back into the Devagala reserve. Treatment has begun on a wild elephant that was critically injured with a gunshot wound to its front right leg in Nikavava, Oyamadua. This operation is being led by Pandulagama wildlife veterinarian Udeshika Madhuwanti.
Moving on to news overseas, a disaster was averted yesterday at Denver International Airport after an American Airlines plane bound to Miami got ensnared in flames due to malfunction in its landing gear during a takeoff attempt, after which the pilot then proceeded to abort before evacuating the jet.
Passengers on board an American Airlines flight AA3023 were forced to evacuate the plane ahead of its takeoff at the Denver International Airport yesterday after a landing gear malfunction led to fire. The American Airlines said the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft suffered a maintenance issue with the tire while it was set to fly to Miami International Airport from the Denver airport. All 173 passengers and 6 crew members were safely evacuated. The US media reported that while one person suffered minor injury and was taken to the hospital for treatment, 5 others were treated at the scene. The Federal Aviation Administration of the US, or the FAA, has said that the issue was caused by a possible landing gear incident. The FAA is further investigating the incident. According to authorities, the flight crew performed emergency evacuation as soon as the flames and smoke were spotted. All passengers were evacuated onto inflated emergency slides as smoke and fire could be seen shooting from under the plane. Foreign media reported that rescue services were scrambled to the runway as the Denver Fire Department and airport's own aircraft rescue and firefighting team immediately responded to the scene and were able to put the fire out. Following the emergency at Denver International Airport, American Airlines released an official statement attributing the incident to a mechanical issue involving one of the aircraft's landing gear tires. According to the airline, preliminary maintenance checks suggest that a failure in the tire assembly may have triggered the smoke and fire observed during the aircraft's attempted takeoff. As a safety precaution, the Boeing 737 MAX 8 involved in the incident has been immediately removed from the active service and is undergoing a detailed technical evaluation by the airline's maintenance team in cooperation with federal regulators. In accordance with FAA airworthiness standards under 14 CFR Part 39, the aircraft will not return to service until it passes a full safety inspection and receives a formal clearance from both the airline's engineering team and FAA certified inspectors.
Greece continues to battle raging wildfires as a blistering heat wave rages, with over 200 firefighters and aircraft working to contain the spread.
Greek emergency services are battling numerous wildfires as a week-long heat wave peaked with temperatures surpassing 45 degrees Celsius. The ongoing emergency comes amid a severe heat wave. Fires were still raging this morning in the Peloponnese area west of the capital Athens, as well as on the islands of Evia and Kythera, with planes and helicopters resuming their work in several parts of the country at dawn. A heat wave in Greece that began last Monday was expected to last until this Monday, according to the country's meteorological service. Strong winds are causing the fire to spread rapidly and prompting evacuations of several settlements. Greece has sought assistance from the European Union to battle the wildfires. While the fire service says the main front has been contained, scattered hotspots continue to burn. More than 200 firefighters supported by helicopters and water-bombing aircraft are still operating in the area.
And in sports news, Jimmy Wright from the United Arab Emirates won this year's Race Across Sri Lanka cycling race.
The first phase of the two-part Race Across Sri Lanka cycling tour concluded yesterday, starting from Colombo and ending in the town of Alla. The second phase of the tour began this morning from Alla and continued all the way to Arugambay. Covering a total distance of 335 kilometers, the Race Across Sri Lanka saw participation from cyclists representing 6 countries, including the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, the United States, South Africa and India. Jimmy Wright from the United Arab Emirates emerged as the overall winner of this year's race, completing the event with an impressive time of 11 hours, 40 minutes and 12 seconds. Mithun Liyanage secured second place, while Anishi Devela finished third.
Race Across Sri Lanka will take Sri Lanka to the world. Now it's its third edition. This time we have riders from UAE, from Australia, a couple of Sri Lankans who are from overseas who are living here. And it's just an amazing thing to do, especially places like Arugambay, which are very seasonal. This is what events of this nature can do to bring more travelers throughout the year. So Race Across Sri Lanka will continue to promote Colombo and Arugambay as a brand new way to look at Sri Lanka.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.